Angela?
Hi, good morning, everybody. Those who are in Singapore, and good evening to those who are in Mexico and in Latin America. And thank you very much, mainly those in Mexico. It's an evening and it's also holiday for them. So what a best way to spend it than to help us and support us being a speaker at this webinar. I would like to give a special thanks to our very good friend, Mario Rostro. He was actually the founder, vice president of the Latin American Chamber of Commerce while he was in Singapore. Back in Mexico, he has always been a very great support to the Latin American Chamber. That's why we always refer to him as the Latin American Business Ambassador, the LABA group member. And I would like to give the mic and the screen to him to give some welcome remarks for this webinar. Mario, welcome.
Hi, how are you? Thank you, Angela. It's a pleasure to be here in this forum. Just wanted to well, congratulate all the efforts that you are doing in the region, Angela. And I think it's we tried to build this forum in order to understand, well, where are the business opportunities, and also what's a little bit of the ecosystem and how we can help you engage and also understand where are the opportunities. I think it's the mix of the speakers that you will have today will give you a sense of what's going on. We all have experience in entrepreneurship, startups, working with big companies. No, in my case, working with Citibank, also not only in Mexico, but also in the US and in Asia. So I think that will give you some of the perspectives of how we think you can do a soft landing in Mexico and also in the region, because most, the ones that we're speaking today, we all have experience in the region, and we have been very successful launching companies and also products across the region and in the US. So I think that will give you a different perspective of which are the key opportunities. I think what is really relevant also to understand is that Mexico is a complex country in terms of the dynamics. You have 3 big cities that they behave as any of the biggest cities in the world, and also the ecosystem business and also opportunities as such are similar, no? And just like Mexico City, with 20 million people, you will find the same kind of opportunities and challenges that you will find in any big city in the world. And then you have the other 2 big cities in Mexico, Guadalajara and Monterrey, that they are quite, they have different vocations. So one is more focused on industry, the other in trading and commerce. And then you will have 20 mid-sized cities that are, well, behaving just like any mid-sized city in the US, with the same kind of branding and services. So I think there are big opportunities also on those. And then you have the poorest parts of the country, like that they behave like some of the countries in Southeast Asia that are limited. They have limited access, but again, they are moving fast. And then you have opportunities in terms of what technology can bring to those communities, and also work with the government in many of the services that can be or companies that can be developed regionally in those states. So I think we need to understand that depending on the services that you are offering, then we need to target the different markets, and also who are the key players in each one of those. I think it's also important to understand that we need to break the market in terms of who can be our partners, and also who are our target customers, in terms of also which industries we are serving. For instance, if you speak about big companies, then you have Grupo Carso, that is the 9th largest carrier in the world. In the region, it has Felipe Lave will speak a little bit of the detail afterwards. But it has more than 280 million mobile phone lines in the region. You have Bimbo, that is the largest supplier of bread in the US and is the 6th largest baking company in the world. You have Cinépolis, that is the 4th largest movie theater company in the world with more than 4,500 screens. And you have companies this size and also local regional players that are quite relevant. So that's why we need to understand the ecosystem. In terms of banking, in Mexico, it's quite unique. We only have 51 banks. And this is a result of some of the crises in the 80s and the 90s, where they consolidated and the bank and the government took, they concentrated and nationalized banks, and then they privatized it again. But then you have these big players, and you have a new whole ecosystem in fintech that is growing also by the hand of many foreign fintechs. So I think that it's depending on the industry and the ecosystem is quite interesting to understand which are the drivers. The other relevant piece that we will speak in some sense also during the different talks is also the role of some of the family offices and some of the venture capital funds and the equity funds, local and foreign, and how they are developing and betting in the country. I think it's now that we are under a left rule government, I think there are many opportunities also in terms of how we perceive the market, and also because of our closeness with the US, we need to understand that the GDP of the Mexicans and the Hispanics living in the US is larger than the GDP of Mexico. So the linkage and the understanding and the cross business that we do together, it's quite relevant. And mostly because also of the free trade, I think the opportunities in logistics, in high-tech manufacturing it was relevant, but I think now with the relationship with the status of the relationship with of the US with China, there's huge opportunities and investments coming to Mexico. So I think it's a good time of speaking of many of these technologies, Industry 401, 4.0, and many other aspects in technology, cloud, and many other players are focusing now in Mexico. And I think it's relevant also to understand what are your needs and how we can help you engage in your business. So I think I will now leave Angela. If that's fine, we can now switch to Felipe.
Thank you, Mario. Thank you very much. Indeed, Mexico is a very large market and also home to one of the largest companies with a global footprint. So we will give the word to our friends on digital policy law, and then we will have the time to have Felipe's presentation and have a Q&A to discuss more with Felipe. So I will give the word to Efrem Paez and Servando Vargas from Digital Policy Law. They will inform us about understanding the digital infrastructure in Mexico. Please, Servando and Efrem.
Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for the invitation. We're going to give you a brief introduction to the Mexican telecom market in terms of how many users, the networks, the competitors, what are the trends in the market right now. So, well, we are going to start with Servando, who is going to give you the introduction to the market. Please, Servando. I think Servando is having issues with his internet.
Okay.
Well,
okay. I do not see the the screen. I don't know. Okay, okay. Here we go. Okay, I'm going to talk about the Mexican telecom market in Mexico. I think that there have been a lot of changes in Mexico regarding the telecom market. I would say it's a really important market if we compare to the whole economy in Mexico. In year 2019, it represented 3% of the total GDP in the country. There are some forecasts that mentions that the Mexican economy is going to have a contraction in year 2020. However, the telecom sector, the forecast is that it is going to grow around 1%. It is something that can tell us that the situation of the telecom market in Mexico it's favorable. So let's go to the next slide. The market has been dominated by Telecom. America belongs to Grupo Carso. The previous speaker talked a little bit about the Grupo Carso. And well, it is the owner of American Mobile operates not just in Mexico, but in many parts of the Latin American region, and also in some countries in Europe. But in any case, the owner, which is Carlos Slim, one of the richest men in the world, has some more activities in Mexico, not just telecom. As I have mentioned, the regulator and the government are not really too happy with having a dominant player such as American Mobile. So there were some recommendations from the CDE in year 2012. And according to those recommendations, the regulator decided to apply asymmetric rules to American Mobile. What are the asymmetrical rules? Are rules which are only for American Mobile, but to help the other participants in the market to have a more favorable scenario. We will see how things have been moving during the time. American Mobile, because of that, was declared a preponderant player. What do we mean by a preponderant? Preponderant in the Mexican law is a player that has more than 51% market share. And American Mobile was declared preponderant, and it is still, according to the law, a preponderant player in Mexico. There are some other things that are happening in Mexico. We will see that mobile penetration, broadband penetration, and all those ratios are very far from global leaders. So in that sense, the Mexican authorities decided to launch a project which is called Red Compartida. What it is, the Red Compartida project is a fiber optic network throughout the country, which can give access to American Mobile's competitors as well as newcomers in the Mexican market. So this network is growing, and it gives access to mobile virtual network operators and American Mobile's competitors. We'll go to next slide, Efren, please. Okay, as I mentioned before, in year 2012, the OECD gave some recommendations to the Mexican regulator, and due to that, in 2018, they mentioned that as a result, now, well, at that moment in time, Mexico had more than 50 million broadband subscriptions. To give you an idea of how much those broadband subscriptions are, this is more or less the population of Colombia. Let's go to the next slide, my friend. One of the main issues or the main problems or what the Mexican authorities, the regulator has mentioned, is that the dominance of American Mobile is too high. In 2012, the market share of American Mobile was of 83.8%, and due to the asymmetrical moves, this market share decreased to 71.8% in year 2016. We will see in the coming slides how this market share is decreasing. The idea of the Mexican regulator is to allow more competitors to have more business in the Mexican market, which is something that generates opportunities not just for the current operators, but for new operators in the Mexican telecom market. Let's go to the next slide, please, friend. Here we have the penetration, the fixed telephony penetration, as well as the fixed broadband penetration. And we have Mexico compared to some countries. It is a small sample, but what we can see in the graph is that Mexico are behind developed countries such as the US or Canada in both domains, in fixed telephony as well as in broadband. So I mentioned when we were talking about Brazil, we were talking about Chile and Colombia, that there is still room for growth. It is the same case for Mexico, as at least in the fixed domain, there is an important gap between Mexico and developed countries. If we take a look at the next slide, we have the mobile telephony penetration. Can we go to next slide, friend? And we can see it is something very, very similar to the previous slide. When we compare Mexico to some other economies all around the world, we can see that in terms of mobile penetration at the end of year 2000 and the previous in year 2019, the mobile penetration in Mexico was 96%. And for example, Chile, Argentina, and Colombia have penetration higher than 100%, and they reach those penetration levels, I would say 5 or 6 years ago. So there's an important gap between Mexico and some other countries in the region. And I would say that this represents also an important opportunity in terms of business for the current telecom players as well as for newcomers. It is the same thing or the same situation for mobile broadband, where we have also the comparison between Mexico and some other regional players where they have higher penetration levels in terms of mobile broadband. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Here we have what I mentioned before. This is the market share for mobile telephony in the 2019. We have American Mobile with a market share higher than 60%. It means that it's a preponderant player, and the other players such as Telecom or AT&T are in a weak position. Telefonica and AT&T have changed a little bit their business models in order to capture more market share from America Mobile. There are some other small players, which are the mobile virtual network operators. It is the same for mobile broadband, where once again, American Mobile has almost 70% share, and Telefonica and AT&T, its closest competitors, are really very far from American Mobile. Most of the mobile broadbands are prepaid, meaning that we remember the case of Chile. In Chile, because of lower prices, customers are going from prepaid plans to postpaid plans. It is something that should happen also in the Mexican market, but this is the situation at this moment in time. The annual growth of mobile broadband was in 2019 a growth of 2 digits. And the penetration, we can see it is a small penetration we have already seen in the previous slides. So in that sense, I would say that what we have here, it is opportunities for the Mexican telecom market. If we take a look at the next slide, we will see the fixed telephony that once again we have American Mobile, the previous one, which American Mobile in the fixed line has a penetration higher than 50%. It means that they are about to become a non-player. However, I would say that the fixed telephony market is not as important as the broadband market. So the fight, I would say that that we have in the market, not just in Mexico, but worldwide, is between mobile broadband and fixed broadband, but not fixed telephony. However, the annual growth of this market is 1.5%. I think that it is a good growth in terms of there are some other markets which are growing less or are not having growth. The penetrations we saw in other slides is 63%, and the minutes of usage are more than 200. In the pay TV market, it is, but in the pay TV market, we do not have American Mobile. And the main reason is that the asymmetrical rules do not allow American Mobile to enter into this market because it would make this player stronger. So the main player in the pay TV market is Grupo Televisa, which is also
Sorry, I think there's some connection issues with the speaker.
Yeah, I think we lost Servando, but well, I can take it from here. In the meantime, we get into the pay TV market. This market, as well, Servando was saying, was we don't have American Mobile here as a participant in the market. And the main reason is because of of regulatory issues that the operator has with the with the entrance to this market. It's forbidden to give the service. Also, we have already American Mobile already has a service called Claro Video, which is a competitor in the OTT market. Either way, we have also that these groups of pay TV operators are also offering new services like fixed broadband, and they are even starting to offer other services through the red compartida or the shared network as mobile virtual network operators. They are also reaching to the mobile markets. And well, the advantage with these operators from pay TV is that they have some local operations in some rural areas, for example, and they can give the fixed services and the mobile services, which were either underserved or there weren't any services in that market. So in the next slide, we see that some of the forecasts from Cisco. These numbers, we must say that in the case of internet access as a percentage of population, Mexico has already surpassed this number. We have about 70% of the population as users of internet, and we have also this trend was accelerated since the reform in 2014. We have also an increase in devices and connections per capita. Mexico hasn't been a market that has, that the users didn't usually have more than maybe one or two devices, as we have seen in other markets. For example, Chile and Colombia easily are above the 100 devices per capita, 400 mobile devices per capita. So, well, we are expecting that maybe that trend will change in Mexico in the next years. And well, also in the average broadband speed in the market is increasing through the last year, has increased through the last years, mainly thanks because of the deployment of new fiber optic networks in the market. Actually, Mexico has one of the highest rates in the fiber market among the OECD countries. At least it has the highest rate of fiber optic network connections among Latin American countries. Well, now we are talking about the devices. Thanks again to the reform in 2014, the affordability of the service has allowed the service to increase among the population. We have that at least 80% of the mobile users in the market have already some kind of access to the internet, mainly through mobile networks. And this trend, well, is keep increasing in the last year. So the mobile devices and the mobile internet, the cellular networks have become like the main tool for internet access in the country. In that sense, the smartphones are the main device for the users to access the internet. Among the population, we have that 63% have already a smartphone, but this device was mentioned that to be the main device for internet access among the population that's already using the internet. That is that about 95% of internet users are using the smartphone as their main device to access the service. And well, in the case of the devices, we have that as well, as not as different as the rest of the world. We have Samsung as the main leader, then Huawei and Motorola. We are expecting that maybe this balance might change in the next years, as Motorola and Xiaomi are increasing their presence in the region, and well, Huawei is having some issues with the arrival of the devices. And we have also an interesting data that is at least 66% of smartphones sold in Mexico are from high and medium range prices. That is, the Mexican user is already looking for some high-end smartphones that have better capabilities. And for example, some characteristics like accessing to the 4G network, it's seen as a very attractive configuration for their devices. If the smartphone is the main device to access the internet, well, we are expecting that that device has a good performance when we navigate in the web. So in the case of the devices that are present in every home, in every house in Mexico, the last survey by the INEGI, the statistical institution in Mexico, is that at least almost 90% of the homes in Mexico have already a mobile phone, which again is an indicative of the smartphone penetration in the market. And they have also and at least or almost 50% of the homes in Mexico have a personal computer, but above the 56% have already an internet connection. In some cases, might be fixed broadband, or also we are seeing an increase in fixed wireless connections through the red compartida. Some that is not a mobile connection, but it's a modem with access to the 4G network that is well, giving internet to the home. Now, as I said before, as the affordability that came with the reform of 2014, slash prices are almost 50% in 5 years. So we also have seen with the increasing interest in new networks, in new connectivity, we have also seen the increasing consumption of data plans. So in this case, at least, well, it's still 40% of the market is within the 1 gigabyte tier market. So, but that percentage is decreasing as some of these users are turning to the highest tiers of the data consumption. So we have already that 33% of the market is in the 1 to 3 gigabytes of the consumption in data. And well, finally, we have some investment triggers, maybe some tips about what is driving the investment in this market. The red compartida is opening the door for more telecom players. We have seen in the last years that some mobile virtual network operators are already using the red compartida, and well, this network is already updating to the newest technologies. So today is already offering LTE plus, but well, they are saying that maybe in the future they will offer the 5G network, maybe with a new spectrum allocation that Israeli Electron makes. We have more traffic, new applications, and smartphone increasing adoption that will require more infrastructure and therefore more investment. We're also seeing that some of the users in Mexico, the ones that are connected, they are very keen to using some new services, new devices, new applications. They are very open to try to new offerings. I mean, some applications like Netflix, for example, Facebook, or even other social networks have have one of the highest rates of penetration here in Mexico. Facebook is already like about 30%, which is one of the highest rates in Latin America, for example. We are going to see more network updates. Some of the, as said before, some of the operators are already updating the networks, mainly to offering the fiber optic networks. And also, well, we are all expecting to the next spectrum allocation, maybe in the 3.5 gigahertz band for 5G networks. And well, finally, mobile and fixed broadband are growing markets. As we see, coming from this pandemic, most of the users are confined to their homes. So some of these services have increased their adoption, and we're hoping that maybe this trend will continue in the next years, as some of the measures of confinement are lifted. No? So, well, that's everything from us. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Efren, and thank you, Servando. I think in your presentation, you have highlighted the importance of América Móvil, not only in Mexico, but also in the Latin American region. And we are all aware of this. While saying that, we are very pleased to welcome our next speaker, who is Felipe Lave. He is the CEO of Global Hits, a system integrator company, part of Grupo Carso, and he also acts as advisor to the senior management of América Móvil. He brings a wealth of knowledge of the market, the needs, and the opportunities. Felipe, thank you very much for being here with us. The mic is yours.
Thank you, Angela. First of all, thank you. I want to thank both Angela and Mario to invite me to this conversation. I really appreciate it. And I hope that I can add at least some value to you guys. As Angela introduced me, I work for América Móvil. I'm the CEO of one of the companies of América Móvil, Global Hits. And Global Hits is the company of the group that is in charge of IT solutions and digital solutions and that we bring to the market as América Móvil. And I have been in the IT market in Latin America for 30 years. I was born in Chile. I was raised in Mexico. I worked for Hewlett Packard for 17 years. Then I worked in my own company for 9 years, and big data analytics company that I sold. And for the last 4 years, I've been working in trying to help América Móvil to go in not only into the telecommunication industry, but also in the IT and the digital solutions industry in the market. So if we can go, I brought some slides so we can use them as a help on this conversation. If we go to the next one, first, let me talk to you about Mexico and its presence in Latin America. If you can move the slide, please, here. So you can divide Latin America in 3 big markets. The biggest market is Brazil as a single country. It's Portuguese. The rest of Latin America speaks Spanish. The second largest country as size is Mexico. As you can see, it's about almost half of Brazil. And then you have the rest of Latin America. So in the 2020, there was a slowdown in the market in several IT industries. And the reason for that is COVID. So the government stopped buying services and products. And there was a huge growth on digital solutions. The digitalization of the companies throughout the region has been accelerated for the last year. And we expect that in 2021 is going to be the same way. So the important piece of this is the growth that we see in 2021. As you can see in Mexico, we expect a growth of 10% for year 2021. In Brazil, it's 5%, Colombia 3%, Argentina 10.4%, Peru 9%, and Chile 5.5%. So it's one of the biggest growth expected in 2021 in Latin America. So I think there is a good opportunity to do some business in Mexico. If we go to the next slide, please. So let's talk a little bit about the digital maturity level. And this is very important. And the reason I'm saying this is you must have a maturity level to make sure that you have the right solution in the right country or the right industry to make sure that you are successful. If you don't understand the digital maturity level, it's going to be kind of difficult on how to really bring to those consumers or those companies the right solution. So as we can see in the slide, in the chart in the left, Mexico is in an acceptable way of maturity level. And if we can see in the right, there have been a lot of we are in the median, but we have grown a lot on the digital policy, and I think it's very important to understand that digital policy and how is it moving forward. In any maturity level that you're looking for, first you need to have connectivity, and as you heard in the last presentation, América Móvil has huge connectivity. On top of that connectivity, you must have devices, and we saw in the previous presentation the penetration of the devices, either a laptop or a handheld or a mobile device, etc. But the third step is the systems in the companies. So they need to have ERPs, CRMs, e-commerce, etc. All the systems in order to make sure that they go to the market and they manage the business the right way. The first step is digital services. That's the first step of the maturity level. Then you have sector integration, and then you have evolution of the digital maturity. I believe that Mexico, it's between 2 and 3. So it's in the middle, but it's still a lot of work to do in order to move forward. It's not a very mature level if you see it as a digital perspective. If we go to the next one. This is some information I brought from Dell, and as you can see, Mexico has the top 5 accelerating programs. One of them is cybersecurity. There is a need of better cybersecurity systems. There is a lot of demand for work from home, remote working capabilities because of the pandemic. They are looking, reinventing how to deliver the digital experience to the customers. Using data is very important these days, and they are looking at the customers and see how to use them in better ways. And there's a big transformation of the services in consumption models. So this is kind of a small perspective on how is the market. If we go to the next slide, please. So the first one, this is the IT market trends that we see. This is information from IDC reports. So the first one is there will be a mixed behavior in the 2021. The market solutions will maintain a positive growth in services that would help companies maintain their business continuity. So business continuity is a big thing these days. And the other one is work from home solutions. The storage equipment, product solutions, we expect that it's going to decrease in the next year. So the market is looking more for services and as a service model. So we don't see a growth in storage or servers. In telecommunications, the industry that is the company that I work for, it will have a positive growth, mainly because of this remote connectivity needed for the home office kind of solutions. So telecom is going to be will have a positive growth. And then data niches, there's going to be a growth, not as important as other solutions, but data is something that you have to take a look at. If we go to the next slide. So this is from an industry point of view. If the two industries that we see as an immediate recovery, according to IDC, is going to be banking and telecom. Those are the two industries that are going to consume faster the services because of this immediate recovery. The consumer services, retail, they will have a gradual recovery, mainly because retail is mainly because of going online and doing the digital commerce, e-commerce, etc. Discrete manufacturing, they were not hit that bad, but they will rebound in this 2021 after the pandemic. What we don't see a big recovery is in the public sector and in transportation. Those are two industries that I would be cautious on 2021 to try to expand your solution, your services in those two industries. Okay. If we go to the next one, please. These are the trends for Mexico. As you can see, in the top side is the global trends, and in the bottom of the slide is the actual trends in Mexico and what we are seeing in 1 to 3 years. So as I was saying, data management and analytics is something that is going on now, but in 3 years we see that it's going to be slower. Digital work is something very, very important today. We believe that it's not going to be that important in 3 years because everybody's going to adopt what they have, and then they will. Is not going to keep on growing. And as you can see, edge computing is something important today. On-demand digital services and multi-cloud environment. Those are what we are seeing today. And in 3 years, we see cybersecurity taking the lead. That is going to be, as you go into more digital services, you go into more connectivity, you go into more attacks, into more needs of cybersecurity, as well as privacy software, containers, serverless. So those are the trends that we see in the next 1 to 3 years. How we're prepared for 5G and 5G infrastructure, that is going to happen. Not today, but maybe in 1 to 3 years, it's going to be more of that, and data management tools. If we go to the next one. So, George, it was a lot of mentions about América Móvil. I just want to show you the size in Latin America of América Móvil. We have presence in 26 countries, 20 of those in Latin America and 6 of them in Europe. The total subscriber base is almost 300 million subscribers. Most of them are wireless subscribers, and you have broadband subscribers, and then you have pay TV subscribers. And as you can see, we are the biggest company in telecommunications in Latin America. If we go to the next one, I just want to show you a little bit on the IT companies that is in the next slide. Can someone, there you go. So in the left is the top largest IT integrators in Mexico. The big guys is IBM, Hewlett Packard, SAP. The fourth one is Telmex, that is one of América Móvil's company. And the fifth one is Accenture. And I included a list of companies according to Dun & Bradstreet in technology services. So the biggest one is Oracle, then Six Sigma, that is Kio, Tata Consulting, Softec, Microsoft. The sixth one is Global Hits. That is the one that I manage. These are numbers only for Mexico. The thing is, Global Hits does business in 8 countries in Latin America, and only Mexico's only 37% of the revenue. So I included all the technology, the most 25 information technology services companies that are more relevant in Mexico for you to know who are the players here in Mexico. If we go to the next one, that is the last slide that I have. It's just some recommendations for a soft landing in Mexico. And the first thing is to partner with an established player that understands the local, social, and geopolitical scene. I believe that is very important. To come alone, not knowing, not partnering with anyone is going to be very difficult. If you do so, if you partner with someone, you're going to reduce financial risks. You will have a quicker and smoother entry to the market. You will have business contact right away, and networking, it's available doing it through a partner. You will have interested buyers and clients are more easily accessible because there are this networking and these relationships. You need to localize your products. I understand that many of you are in the fintech business. You need to understand the regulation on the fintech regulation for Mexico that is very different than other countries. And finally, you need support with legal, tax, accounting, and fiscal requirements. It's very important to understand. And if you do it with a partner, it's going to be easier for you. And if you don't, please make sure that you have all the information around regulations, about legal, about withholding taxes. Many times you don't think about those and are important things that you should be considering. So that's my last slide. I want to thank you. I hope that some of this information helps you out. And I'm available. Angela has my contact. If you want to have any further contact with me, I will greatly receive any call or any mail. And that's it. Back to you, Angela.
Felipe, thank you very much for this presentation. We have here a short Q&A session if there's any question from the participant companies. Well, I know that there is a company actually in the cybersecurity side called Nexus Guard. Actually, I'll urge you if you can use the microphone to ask the question. So there's a question here. Hi, Felipe, we work with telecom companies to use their data for O measurement. Will American Mobile be interested in this use case? Shikan, maybe you would like to
we are evaluating different use cases on how to use the data. We are interested on building services using the data that we bring to the customers. We are not interested on selling the data as data by itself. So if you have use cases that we can partner with you to explode our data and bring to the market, yes, that would be interesting. We are already doing some use cases. We will need to see if those use cases that you have are different or are complementary or the ones that we have.
Excellent, Felipe. I've reached out on LinkedIn. I'll share. There is a good use case in Japan where NTT, Docomo, and Dentsu joined together to create a service.
Okay.
So that can be a good use case that we can benchmark against.
So if you can send me information around that use case, we will take a look at it. I can tell you that the kind of use cases we are doing credit reviews based on the communications data. We are already doing those kind of things. Best next offer for different industries. We are doing that. So yes, if you have. We can have a conversation about it. And my company is the one that engage in partnering with other companies to bring to the telco company the new business.
Excellent, Felipe. You made my day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Francisco Rios, you have a question?
Yes. Hi, Felipe. How are you? This is Francisco from Enterprise Singapore. We met a while ago. As you may know, Enterprise Singapore is the company or the government agency that helps Singapore companies coming into the market, into the Latin American market. And I was wondering if you guys have already identified a type of technology, a type of companies that you guys are looking for to bring as partners into your own ecosystem for Latin America.
So the way we're doing it, Francisco, is we are targeting industry verticals and bring use cases to specific industry verticals, okay? We have created a very strong acceptance and knowledge for the group, which has been very difficult, that this is about creating ecosystems. Anyone, even us with the size we have, if we say that we can do everything, means that we cannot do anything. We cannot do it. So we are partnering a lot. And we are doing that partnering through use cases oriented to a specific industry verticals. More in the use case than in the technology by itself, because we have access to technology from everywhere in the world. So what we are very interested in the use cases. And the most important industry verticals that we are looking at is retail, it's financial services, is smart cities, is healthcare, and education, and manufacturing 4.0. That would be the 6 main industries that we are targeting in order to bring use cases.
Very interesting, thank you. And I think that's music to our ears, because all those 6 verticals that you mentioned, actually Singapore has quite a good differential on it.
And honestly, when Angela and Mario invited me here, I was interested on doing this. I usually don't do this kind of calls, but I'm interested on seeing what you have, to see what the companies in Singapore are doing and what we can bring to Mexico or to Latin America.
Yeah, well, we'll be happy after the week is over and after you have your one-on-ones. We'll be happy to regroup. As I said, I'm based in Mexico City, looking at the whole of Latin America, to show you what our ecosystem is and where we can find other companies as well that may be interesting for you. What we have found in the last couple of years has been that the social and economic dynamics of Southeast Asia are actually very similar to those of Latin America. So the solution, the problem that they're tackling is very similar, which means that the solution tends to be applicable.
As a matter of fact, I did an alliance, a partnering with Alibaba, because of what they are doing with their software, their new retail software in Southeast Asia, that is very similar for us in Latin America. So that's why I did that alliance with them. And I agree with you. So if you have use cases that are working in Southeast Asia, typically are going to be good use cases for Latin America.
Thanks.
So I don't know. I see that there's people asking for my email. Angela, if you can, I can put it here.
I can connect with you with them, and we have shared a deck of many of the companies participating, so we will be very pleased to have them introduced to you. There are some in cybersecurity, Nexus Guard, that could be interesting. So we will.
Now, something very important, and I'm very interested, just to say it very out loud. We have a very strong company in América Móvil on cybersecurity. The name of the company is Citum, SCITUM, but it's only in Mexico. We are starting to move it into Brazil, Colombia, and some other countries throughout Latin America. But at this point of time, any play that I see in cybersecurity, I want to see it as a region perspective, not only Mexico. Okay.
Thank you. Is there any more questions? Well, I think your email will be, your inbox will be full up of questions in the next day.
Don't worry, if I don't answer you fast, don't worry, I will. But it takes me a while.
Felipe, thank you very much. Greatly appreciated your
Thank you.
participation, sharing with us, and also the opportunity to connect to the verticals of America Mobile.
Yeah, please contact me. And I understand that later in this meeting, you will present some things around regulation and legal, etc. Please make sure that you listen to those, because it's very important to understand all the complexity on the regulation and the taxes, etc., to be successful in Mexico.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that advice.
Okay. Well, I have to disconnect because I'm right now here is 9:30 at night, and I'm going for dinner. So I'm gonna cut my connection. Okay.
Perfect. No problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye. And we will continue with our next speaker. Also, as I said in the beginning, Mario has been very keen to and very supportive, connecting us to really the best in Mexico. So I would like to welcome our next speaker he's one of the co-founders of Jaguar Funds, and he's also the president of the Mexican Online Sales Association. His name is Eric Perez Grobas. He will share with us some of the success stories of companies arriving to Mexico. Eric, thank you very much for being here with us.
Thank you very much. Let me share my presentation. There you go. Can you see it?
Yes.
Perfect. So as a quick intro about me, so you know who I am. I'm a venture capitalist by profession. That's what I do. And we are very fortunate to be in several, at least in a couple of unicorns, particularly in fintech. We are investors in Nubank, we are investors in Kavak, but anyway, all those are unicorns. That being said, when I was asked to speak about inspiring stories, to be honest, most of the stories that I was able to thought about were not success. The other way around. Mexico, it's a difficult market for several things that I'm going to explain. That being said, it's a worthwhile market. And actually, the two examples that I'm going to base a lot my presentation are two that I'm experienced with. One is Mercado Libre, that for those that you don't know, Mercado Libre is the largest e-commerce platform in Latin America. I brought Mercado Libre to Mexico, and I managed Mercado Libre to Mexico in its first years of operation. And in the case of Walmart, I'm one of the board of directors of Walmart of Mexico. It's a public entity on its own. So for those of you that don't know, Mexico, and this is public information, is the most relevant international market for Walmart, as is for many transnational companies. So both Mercado Libre and Walmart are examples that Mexico can be an extremely successful market to come. But as I started saying, it's a market that will take you a while. So my first do is, whenever you do your business plan for Mexico, be sure that you are willing to sustain the investment for a couple of years. It will be worth it, but you need to be prepared for that. The first mistake that I see is that, particularly the most companies that I have seen landing to Mexico are Brazilian companies, and most of the times they come expecting to see the same metrics that they see in Brazil, and Mexico is not as evolved in terms of digital, the digital economy as Brazil is. So they become disappointed very quickly. In your case, that you come from Southeast Asia, this is going to be even worse. The digital economy in Mexico is much less developed as the digital economy in Southeast Asia. So you need to be prepared for that. That being said, and I want to emphasize it, it is worth it. So let's begin. As an investor, I typically like to see businesses in three big areas, which I combine into a surfing analogy. This is my daughter, Fernanda, surfing. And the surfing analogy for investing is, in order to have a successful investment, you need to have a very good team, that in this case is the surfer, but you also need to have a very good business model, that in this case is the surfboard. No matter how good a surfer you are, if your surfboard is made of lead, you're going to sink. So you need to have a very good business model. And third, you need to have a very big market, because no matter what a good surfer you are, no matter what a good surf table you have, if the wave is small, you're only gonna get a couple of meters. Well, if the wave is big, you're gonna ride it for a long time. So in this case, it's the market. So taking those three elements, in the case of the Mexican market, the first one that I think is the most difficult is talent. I know that all over the world, you will say that talent is important and that it's difficult. And that's why I always have this slide in my presentations, in which I emphasize the importance for talent for Jack Welch, who was the CEO of the largest company at the time. So my message is always, for Jack Welch, talent was important. Imagine for you that you are a smaller company. That being said, in Mexico, it's even more difficult. I've compared talent acquisition in Mexico, not only against all Latin America, but also against the US, and also against some Southeast Asian companies. And in all cases, Mexico always ends up being the toughest market for acquiring talent. Why is that? I think it's a combination of several things. One is that we unfortunately don't have a very good education system. Mexico, its public education system, it's pretty bad, even compared to the rest of the large Latin American countries. And this combines that we do have very large companies operating in Mexico, as Walmart, as I was mentioning, or Mercado Libre, or as the local ones like Grupo Carso, who someone just spoke. So these big companies get the talent, the few talent that it's available. And then you have to add that in the digital world, and now in this pandemic era, has become worse, because the US companies have come to Mexico to start to acquire that talent also. For example, the university I studied at, Tecnológico de Monterrey, every 6 months, Microsoft, Google, Facebook, their US operations will come to Mexico to hire engineers. And now that they can work remotely, it has gotten even worse. So be prepared to struggle with talent. I used to have a boss, a Spanish boss, that used to say that if Spaniards knew how much you could get paid in Mexico, they will come swimming. Because that's the other thing. Good talent is expensive in Mexico. So that is very important. So what are my recommendations for talent? My first recommendation is that you are prepared to send a team of your own. At least that's what I've seen to be very successful in the case of Mercado Libre, and the case of Walmart, and in the case of other companies that I've not done a successful landing. They send people that work for their operations in other countries. But on the other hand, they complemented it with local talent. Why is it so important to have local talent if it's so expensive? I think that it's not, and I'm not proud to say this, but it's a reality. I don't think there's a reason why a couple of the industries that were mentioned in the previous presentations that have a lot of future in Mexico are cybersecurity, fraud detection. Unfortunately, we are a country that, compared to other developed nations, we don't have precisely the most robust rule of law. That's the reality. So, funny anecdote, I don't know if you know this, but the reason why pirates use a patch in the eye was not because they were missing an eye. It's because in combat, they had to switch from being in the top of the boat at daylight and looking how the fight was, and then having to go down to the bottom where the cannons were, and in the bottom of the boat it was very dark, so they had to remove that. They wanted to have an eye always prepare for obscurity. Unfortunately, that's what you need in Mexico. You need talent that is ready for obscurity. And please, 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 don't take this as that you need to hire people that will do wrong things. You don't need to do that. I can guarantee you that the two examples that I gave you, both Mercado Libre, Walmart, and many other companies that I know that are very successful, have do things right. Actually, if you don't, you should get in a lot of problems. That being said, you do need to hire talent that can guarantee you that they understand the obscure complexities that this market is going to bring. So I wholeheartedly recommend you that whenever you hire someone in Mexico, do two things. First, do a lot of research about that person. And second, ask this person about difficult moments in their careers. And if they are not able to mention difficult moments, they either are lying or they have not been in important positions. I can tell you, as a matter of fact, it's almost impossible to be operating a company and not having to eventually have to deal with complicated situations, which you can deal legally. And please let me reinforce this, but you need people that have gone through that experience. There's also a reason why I wanted to show you a pirate in this, in the talent slide, and it's to reinforce that you're going to have to steal that talent. There was this, I'm not going to say names, but there was this executive in the digital economy in Mexico that was kind of famous because he moved around many companies, and all the companies thought they were very fortunate that they always found him available. To be honest, they always find this person available because he got fired all the time. So in Mexico, talent is so scarce that if you don't find that person occupied, chances are it's not the best talent available. So that would cover talent. Now, let me move to the part of the business model, which, as I was telling you, is the serve table. We're fortunate to be investors in co-investors in one of our unicorns with Sequoia. And one of the things that I learned speaking with Sequoia, with the partner of Sequoia in charge of this investment, is that I don't know how familiar you are with the concept of product market fit. It's a very important concept in the venture capital world, at least in the US and Mexico, and it signifies how easily a market is willing to use or buy your product. And the reason I mentioned Sequoia is because when I ask them, what do you consider to be good product market fit when you evaluate a company, they tell me it has to be so strong, the product market fit, that you need to hear the sulking sound of the market gulping it whole. So in Mexico, it's important to have product market fit, but it's very important that you are able to calibrate with a local reality. Why is that? Remember, I come from the digital world, and this is important. I don't know how other markets work. The only market I know is the digital work in Mexico. In the case of the digital world in Mexico, if you speak with companies, and actually I have spoken with several from Southeast Asia, what they will tell you is that our market, the Mexican market, it's more difficult for us to understand complex solutions, particularly in the consumer side. So if you are bringing a consumer product or a consumer service, be ready to understand that our market may take a while to understand it. And in the case of B2B, we do have very sophisticated people, but my recommendation is that if it's a transnational operating in Mexico, what you want to do probably is to have the validation of the transnational headquarters before you engage with the Mexican headquarters. The reason I'm showing this slide is because one of the reasons I think Google eventually destroyed Yahoo is because it was a much more simple business model. And so basically, when you come to Mexico, you need to understand that you need to simplify your product or service as much as possible. And you also, in case you're a B2B company, you need to try to have the foreign headquarters of the company you're targeting in Mexico to validate the service. Be prepared also in the digital world to pay for a higher cost of customer acquisition. Actually, one of the main reasons what I've seen digital companies fail in Mexico is because when they come, they assume that the customer is going to cost the same to acquire it that it costs you in your local market. And therefore you come and you very quickly realize that that was not the case. And therefore your budget that you had X amount of money for that year, it ends up being much less useful than you thought, because you were thinking you were going to be able to acquire 1,000 clients, while in the end, because of the reality of the customer acquisition cost, you're able to acquire much less clients, and therefore the business doesn't make the logic that you were thinking. So you have to be prepared for that. And fortunately, day by day, there are more proxies about companies, digital companies operating in Mexico, but be prepared for paying a larger, costlier customer acquisition cost. The good news is that also what I've seen in several companies coming to Mexico is that they are surprised of how retention works in Mexico. So on one hand, you have a higher acquisition cost, but on the other, the consumer tends to be more loyal. And many times, because it's a consumer, it works both ways. Same as it was difficult to convince the consumer to use your service, it's also going to be very difficult for another company to convince them to abandon you. So that's a good thing that you need to incorporate into your business model. So be ready for that. Be ready to pay a higher cost, but also be prepared to have a more loyal client. I cannot express this enough, but you need to be able to understand my recommendation is that before you decide on a yearly budget for, at least for customer acquisition cost, you need to understand very well the consumer. And one example that I have is of a payments company in which we are investors, actually, which is it's called Conecta. So this company, it's a digital payment company, and one day Stripe, which by the way today had a very good announcement about a very large round, Stripe announced that they were going to land in Mexico. So as you can imagine, as investors in this digital payment company, we became very preoccupied about Stripe landing into Mexico. What ended up happening is that, sorry, I think you cannot see my, what ended up happening is that Stripe didn't realize the importance in Mexico about cash payments. In Mexico, so you know, less than 20% of the population have a credit card. So a business model as a Stripe that is based on companies being able to charge their consumers through credit card was prone to failure in Mexico. On the other hand, this business where we were investors, which is called Conecta, one of their main solutions was allowing companies to be able to have clients pay cash in convenience stores for their e-commerce purchases. So when a Stripe came, they very quickly attracted sophisticated e-commerce players. They lost it as soon as they acquired them, because when the e-commerce site discovered that they were not able to have their consumers pay with cash, it was a big problem. So I really recommend all companies landing in Mexico that before establishing a yearly budget, at least a yearly marketing budget, that use several tries to understand the real cost of acquisition of the cost, and therefore you can do a believable business model. So now the market. The market is huge, as I was telling you, and once again, this is public, so sorry that I emphasize it, but since I'm in the board, I need to be very sure that you know that I'm only sharing public information. So Mexico is the largest market, international market for Walmart, but not only for Walmart, of many of the largest consumer companies, Mexico is one of the largest markets. Uber, Mexico City is, I think, number 2 or number 3 market in the world. For Spotify, Mexico is one of the largest markets. For Netflix, Mexico is one of the largest markets. So we are literally more than 100 million people connected already. So we are a big market. That being said, something that you don't need to take into account is that we are a country where big players have big power. I have this painting that you see there, and it's to remind me that all the businesses that I invest at are the small yellow fish, and that there's big blue fish below lurching in Mexico. That's how it is. So that big blue fish, you need to be very conscious who it is, because if you attract the attention of that big blue fish very quickly, he's going to eat you. So you have to be mindful about that. Oligopolies are real, they exist, and they are mighty. So, and that's a reality of this country. Fortunately, we are a digital country already. Basically, we had a very important reform, I believe it was 2013, that allowed telecoms to invest in Mexico. AT&T is literally investing billions and billions of dollars in Mexico. As Carlos already mentioned, they are investing a lot of money in Mexico. So the window to interact with the consumer, it's already here. What it's not here already, and it's important, the other day I was I was listening a conversation of Jeff Bezos explaining why Amazon was successful. And he was explaining that a reason for the success of Amazon was that a lot of things were already built. The postal service was already built, the payments were already built. So the only thing he needed to do was build the webpage and customers came. Things that are not present in Mexico and are both opportunities and challenges. So you have them into account. Payments, we're still quite underdeveloped in terms of payments. As I told you, less than 20% credit card penetration. Logistics, I don't know if you know this, but Mexico has been for a couple of years already the country in the world that e-commerce is growing fastest in terms of percentage. And with COVID, it was even worse, but it was even before COVID. And that has put a lot of pressures into logistics, and particularly in companies that don't have the purchasing power, such as the Amazons, the Mercado Libre, and the Walmart. So both logistics and payments are something that can be problematic, and obviously, on the other hand, are opportunities for you to consider. So I understand. I had until two more minutes. I don't know if there's any question that I can solve in 2 minutes. So let me know. Thank you.
Eric, thank you very much. This is a very good presentation and very interactive. We like a lot your pictures. I don't know if there's any questions from the participants. And likewise, we will be very pleased if there's any company that is participated that Jaguar will be interested to know more. We will be happy to connect. I think we don't have any questions. Okay, Eric, thank you very much. And thanks for being with us this late in the evening on a holiday in Mexico.
Thank you very much.
And we will move forward. We will go to the legal and tax information. For the legal information, we have invited Carlos Niño. He is from TRC Legal. And Carlos, please take it slowly. So Carlos has just recovered from COVID. Luckily, we have him here with us. And I know it was not an easy path, but we're very pleased you are here with us. Carlos, thank you very much. The mic is yours.
Thank you very much, Angela, for inviting me. And I'm a COVID survivor by fortune, and I will try to speak very slowly, and I hope everybody can understand my presentation. Well, I will give you an overview of the Mexico's legal landscape for tech companies in general terms. Let me tell you a bit about myself. I run a law firm established in Mexico City more than 20 years ago. and we are focused on advising foreign corporations doing business in Mexico from many countries, from all areas of services and industries. And I have had a lot of interaction with Singaporean companies for almost 20 years. So I have a special feeling about Singapore that makes me feel very happy every time that I go there. If we can go to the next slide, please. In general terms, Mexico is a very friendly oriented country to foreign investors, mainly once NAFTA began in 1994. And this is the reason why many companies from all over the world came to our country to invest, not only to supply the NAFTA region, but also to take the advantages of the Mexican market. Talking about the relationship with Singapore, in 2016, Mexico and Singapore signed an agreement to protect the investment, and which can give you the certainty that whenever you decide to invest in our country, your investment will be protected by this international treaty, aside from the factor that Mexico and Singapore are part of the CPTPP trade agreement as well. If we can move to the next slide, please. Since many years, tech companies have been using Mexico as a very business place and operations hub due to the size of the market and strategic localization now under the USMCA region. And there are a lot of tech companies that provides both services and products. Many of them are manufacturing in Mexico and destined to the United States, Canada, Mexico, and to all over the world. It is important to mention that there is also like an IT hub located in the state of Jalisco, and also there is a aerospatial hub located in the state of Querétaro, which is a very important place to do business on those sectors of technology. If we can move to the next slide, please. In Mexico, we are mainly an exporter country. And there are some programs granted by the Mexican government that promotes export of goods and services. Therefore, it is important to let you know that a lot of tech companies, they take the advantage of what we call the IMEX program, which allows them to operate under duty-free terms, mainly to allow them to import machinery and raw material to manufacture goods destined to the export markets. These final goods can be exported to the export markets to all those countries where Mexico has free trade agreements with the preferential import duty treatments. So these become a very competitive factor in favor of these tech companies located in Mexico. If we can move to the next slide, please. The next slide, please. My colleagues already spoke about this. Thank you very much. As a result of the COVID scenario, millions of people changed his way of living and working, forcing both the people and companies to get involved with new technologies and tools for the day-to-day operation. This factor became a boost for IT companies to improve and increase its sales worldwide. And it happened in a general way, not only in other countries, but in Mexico too. And if we can move to the next slide, I'm making this comment because in the past, almost 90% of the companies that I was used to incorporate with foreign investment, they were mainly destined for manufacturing and commercial activities. But since COVID began, now 30% of the new companies that I have been registering are related to technology. This means that there is an area of opportunity for these companies in Mexico at this moment of time. If we can move to the next slide, please. Also, it is important to mention that for those companies that are digital platforms such as Airbnb that are not located in Mexico and are not wishing to open a Mexican company, they are obliged to get a tax ID in Mexico and to withhold 16% of the value-added tax to its Mexican customers. But I do believe that my colleague from Pricewaterhouse can elaborate more about this, but it is important for you to be aware of this legal provision applicable to digital platforms in Mexico. Can we move to the next slide? This is something associated with what is happening in the world. Now with the change of administration in the US, and because of the affectation of the economy resulted from COVID all over the world, Mexico suffered a lot. However, the massive vaccination and financial rescue plan just implemented in the USA will be considered as a main factor of economical recovery, not only in that country, but in Mexico as well, because 80% of our trade is with that country. So that will become an attractive way of thinking on doing business in our country, because we do believe that there will be an acceleration on the recovery of the Mexican economy due to this factor. Now, let's talk about the main topic that I was requested to talk about in this presentation, which is something associated with the incorporation of companies. I will focus myself on the general type of companies that small and medium enterprises register in our country. There are mainly two types of companies that we usually incorporate to foreign investors in Mexico. One is the Sociedad Anónima de Capital Variable, which is similar to a US corporation. Remember that Mexico operates under a civil law system. The other is the Sociedad de Responsabilidad Limitada de Capital Variable, which is similar to a US LLC. 90% of subsidiaries from all over the world are generally registered in Mexico as LLCs. And you need at least two partners, which can be either a combination of companies and or individuals. And 100% of the investment can be foreign, unless on specific cases when there are restrictions by the law. However, in most of the cases, it can be 100% of foreign investment. There is no need for you to have a Mexican partner, unless you want it because of commercial reasons, but in such a case, it is not an obligation. And there is a similar taxation treatment to both the corporation or the LLC. And aside from the corporation process, it is very important that the company engage with the local accounting firm that will be in charge of registering the company before the tax authorities, and also to bookkeeping the accounting of the company, and to prepare and submit the tax returns on a monthly basis. That is why it's very important that these services gets engaged together with the lawyers at the same time, so that by the time that we prepare the bylaws of the new entity, we can grant limited powers of attorney to the public accountants, so that they can represent the company before the tax authorities, before the social care authorities, and so that they can also open the bank account of the company as well. Unless that the Singaporean partners, they hire a Mexican employee and they grant these powers of attorney to this individual. Why this is very important? Because in Mexico, it is necessary to be a Mexican citizen or a foreign citizen with a working visa to be able to represent the company before the tax authorities or to open bank accounts. Many IT companies, or in general, many companies during the startup process, to save money, they use either the accounting or the lawyer's address as official domicile on a temporary manner in the meantime that they prepare everything to begin operating. This becomes a value added. Why? Because they don't need to rent an office since day one or hire a lot of employees. And as Eric was mentioning, maybe this can give you, in the meantime that you prepare the legal and tax structure of the company, you can be looking for the people that you will be hiring without having to rent an office since day one. Also, it is important for you to be aware that, you know, this is a different country. We're not talking of Singapore. So the incorporation process takes around 3 weeks. And then after the incorporation of the company gets performed by the lawyers, then we will transfer the file to the accountants so that they can get the tax ID of the company, and then they can open the bank account, which takes around another 3 to 4 weeks, depending on the bank that they decide to work with. Of course, there are a lot of banks in Mexico, so it's on the client's decision which bank they want to work with. No less important is to mention that should the case the company it's thinking as part of its business model to import goods into Mexico, they will need to get an importer license. And should the case the company is thinking on hiring foreign staff or bringing expats, we will need to file for a license before the Mexican Immigration Office to be able to file for working visas of this personnel. Also, as I mentioned before, the company, the subsidiary that will be open as it is considered as a Mexican company and will be eligible for the benefits of all the treaties signed by Mexico, which is a very competitive value added, considering that Mexico is one of the countries which has the most free trade agreements in the world. There is, of course, other option. And I would like to mention this because some clients have asked us if they could register a branch of the Singaporean company in Mexico. This is feasible, yes, of course, we can do it. However, the cost associated with the process, if compared with the registering a new company, are almost double. And the liability it goes directly to the Singaporean corporation, either on labor matters, tax matters, and commercial matters. So it's a decision of the company. However, we always strongly suggest that you mainly open a new entity instead of registering a branch in our country. As Eric and Felipe were mentioning before, there is a cultural gap. There is a huge difference among Singapore and Mexico. And may I say that the best approach to invest in Mexico is to engage with multicultural advisors and business partners. This will minimize the learning curve process. This will help you to better understand our culture, our country, our market, because Mexico is a huge country, and it's like having different countries inside the same territory. So it's something that you should take into consideration to look for the best of your business and to be, let's say, best covered under any aspect. I mean, legal, tax, commercial, and even business-wise. Finally, and considering that this presentation is focused on companies that are related to the technology sector, I would like to mention that Mexico duly protects the intellectual property and copyrights, patents, and that it is included either in the several free trade agreements that we have, but also Mexico is part of the World International Property Organization. So it's a matter of you registering your IP in our country, and you will be duly covered because there is the rule of law on IP companies, and there will be no problem for you to be protected by the Mexican authorities associated with this very important part and asset of your companies. And this is my last slide, and I don't know if you have any other questions. I would love to answer them to you for sure.
Carlos, thank you very much. Here is your contact. Also for the participants, I know that a lot of your portfolio actually of companies in Mexico are mainly foreign tech companies arriving into Mexico. So you are the man in that area. Thank you very much for this. And there's no questions, and we wish you to continue your recovery.
Thank you very much, Angela. I really appreciate that.
Get back fit. Thank you very much. And
You're
we
welcome.
Continue to our next speaker. So we thank you very much to the PwC team who has been with us during all these 4 webinars. This is our last one about Mexico. And we always have put tax at the last part of the webinar, so they always go to bed at very late times. I would say Mexican is not so bad, but we finish like almost at 1 a.m. in Brazil. And I would like to invite Mariano Tehran. He is the tax partner for PwC Mexico, and he will share with us an overview of Mexico's tax regime for tech companies. Mariano, thank you very much. Mic and camera is yours.
Thank you, Angela, and thank you everybody for attending this session. I don't know, Angela, do you have my slides or do you want me to present them?
Oh, please present them. We don't have handy here.
Okay, so just bear with me for a second. Let me know if you can see them now. Can you see them?
Not yet.
Oh my God.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, sorry. It's always tech difficulties when talking about tech, right? Well, thank you. As you know, tax is not always sexy, but Ben Franklin once said that there are only 2 certainties in life for death and taxes. So let's talk about this, because if you want to come to Mexico, this is something you need to be aware of. Talking about taxes could take me a few hours, especially around how to do business in Mexico and what the tax side of it is. So I'm going to try and give you the main aspects of taxation regimes in Mexico for digital, and talk about a recent reform that affected digital platforms that Carlos referred to in the last presentation.
Sorry, your slides are in the presentation view, presenter's view. Maybe you can click on the display settings button to switch it around.
I'm sorry.
You can go to slideshow.
Yeah, I'm trying to, but it's not working for me. Apologies for this. I have too many.
At the menu bar, there's actually a button, slideshow. You click on that one. Move your cursor to the left. You're muted. Okay. Yeah, but you're still
Sorry about
okay.
that. I was
That's great.
looking at the other.
Yeah, this is good.
Okay, so is it better?
Yes.
Okay. So I was telling you that I'm going to try and cover taxation in a nutshell for digital and discuss that recent reform that affected digital platforms on a change to the income tax and value-added tax last year that Carlos referred to. Okay, in general terms, our taxation system works like most countries. We do have a corporate income tax that applies on a federal level. The nominal tax rate is 30%. We don't have state income taxes, so that if you went to the Brazil presentation, you would see that this is a big difference on how we manage our taxation system. There's a tax for distribution.
So sorry, I think we are still looking at your desktop.
My God.
Sorry, I thought this was the presentation slide, but I realize it's not.
If you can just take it from your email, and then we can just pass it for Mariano.
Okay.
I'm gonna stop sharing.
Yeah, I got it. Okay.
All right. Thank you for that. And sorry, again, apologies. So I was saying that the federal tax rate is 30%. We don't have state taxes or state income tax applicable. There's a dividend distribution tax when the distribution goes to foreign residents. That is 10%. Well, 10% withholding that could be creditable by the recipient of the dividend, and can be reduced with the tax treaties that are available. Like Carlos was saying, Mexico has one of the largest treaty networks in the world. This is also true for tax treaty networks. We do have the concept of permanent establishment in Mexico. So as Carlos was mentioning, if you decide to operate through a branch or have an office in Mexico, that could create a permanent establishment that is essentially treated as a regular Mexico taxpayer, but has additional requirements to comply with, especially related with the flow of money from headquarters to Mexico. There's a value-added tax that applies at a 16% rate in general in Mexico for a special decree that was published 2 years ago and just renewed this year. There's a special zone in the border area of the north part of Mexico and now the south part of Mexico that could apply as an 8% VAT rate, but only for activities carried out and conducted in those two regions. Now, the main topic today is the digital tax reform that was approved for last year and entered into effect in June 2020. And this one affects digital services that are rendered from abroad, but are used by Mexican residents or clients, and mediation platforms rendered from, well, platform services already rendered from abroad between third parties, when we have those third parties located in Mexico as well. If you want to move to the next one, please. So the main impact of this changes is that now they are affecting non-residents that traditionally would not be taxed in Mexico, because there are specific rules for not triggering a permanent establishment in Mexico when you are using B2C services from abroad, and the servers on which the company operates are not located in Mexico. But with this change, now there's a value-added tax being imposed on most of these services that I'm going to explain later, and there's also an income tax withholding that would apply to the mediation that platform. Sorry. If you want to move to the next one, please. Next one. So on digital services rendered by non-Mexican, and please be aware, this, what I'm going to talk to you about applies when you don't have a Mexico tax residence or tax presence. So if you are, for instance, and this is public, so I'm going to use an example, Netflix does not render their streaming services using a Mexico-based server. So technically, they have no legal presence in Mexico for that service specifically. So now they're going to be, well, starting last year, they're being taxed on the streaming services. But if you have a Mexico-based company, if you come to Mexico, you register here and you render your services from Mexico, none of, at least this first section will apply, only on the mediation platforms. So in general, the services that are now subject to tax are the streaming services, downloading of images, text, information, etc., mediation among third parties for sales of goods or rendering services. There's an exception for second-hand used products that will not be subject to additional taxation, but the rest of uh, the sales taking place through this type of platforms will be taxed or are taxed already. Online clubs, online dating, online learning, or tests. These are all covered. Then the recipients or users of the service are deemed to be located in Mexico when at the registration they provide a Mexican domicile. When the user pays through the Mexican financial intermediary or uses an IP within the range assigned to Mexico or provides a Mexico phone number. A lot of people are using VPN to try and get around this, but where there are ways also technology that allows the renderers of the service to identify when this is a Mexican-based user. If you want to move to the next one, please. What are the implications to these services provided by non-residents? There will be the obligation to charge value-added tax at this general 16% rate, even if the user is located in one of the two areas that I mentioned that use an 8% rate. The recipient of these services will be charged at 16% rate. If this is a business to consumer operation, obviously that VAT will be unrecoverable because the final consumer would not have the right to do that. But if this is a B2B operation, that VAT will be creditable to the recipient. The next one, the non-resident. Yeah, next one, please. The non-resident has to register in Mexico 30 days after their services start being rendered. And they have to file information returns on a monthly basis to the tax authorities and determine and pay the VAT that is being charged and transferred to the final users. If the user requires it, the non-resident has to issue an electronic invoice to the recipient, but they don't have to comply with the obligations that other Mexico based companies have that are very specific electronic requirements for the invoices, what we in Mexico call the CFDIs. And finally, there has to be a legal representative and an official address in Mexico. If you want to move to the next one. Okay. Now, these are technicalities, but if the service that is covered by this tax is rendered along with non-covered services, then you have to apply the VAT on the segmented service. Or if it's no breakdown, then 70% of the total invoice would carry now VAT. And the tax authorities are publishing regularly a list with all the registered non-residents that are already compliant with VAT obligations. For all these services in general, there are no changes to the way income tax is applied in general, except for what we're gonna discuss next. And the activities, as always, have to be analyzed to see if we create or not a permanent establishment in Mexico. For companies based in Singapore, the list of situations where you create a permanent establishment in Mexico based on the Mexico-Singapore Treaty that dates since '95 is very long. So having an office in Mexico creates permanent establishment. Having people hired directly in Mexico could also create permanent establishment, depending on how we how that person or that group of persons operate and represent the Singaporean entity. If we want to move to the next one. So this is just to, to depict when we are subject to this VAT application, and it's basically when any of the covered services are rendered by a digital company, in this case, that is based abroad. If you want to move to the next one. Now, on mediation services and digital platforms, there's a new obligation that also started last year for income tax to be withheld when the service or the selling of goods or rendering of service take place by Mexican users, and in a similar fashion as I described in the past. Obviously, this was very much targeted to create a withholding system for Uber and other transportation operations in Mexico, the lodging services such as Airbnb, and the sale of goods through Mercado Libre, which was also already mentioned, and similar platforms in Mexico. So for transportation services, depending on the business activity and the amounts, the withholding goes from 2 to 8%. For lodging services, it goes from 2 to 10%, and for other activities at a lower rate, as long as the individual that is obtaining a revenue through the use of these platforms provides an income tax ID. If they don't, then there's a blanket withholding of 20% on the gross amount of the transactions. So if I have an apartment, I want to list it on Airbnb, but I don't want to give my tax ID, then whatever portion of the payment goes to me would have a 20% withholding, just as an example. If you want to go to the next one. There's the VAT, the regular VAT at a 16% rate will be withheld by the non-resident in the mediation service, and if there was no tax ID provided at a full rate, if there was a tax ID provided at 50% of the regular VAT. There are a number of obligations. I don't want to bore you with reading all of this. I think Angela can circulate the material, but in general terms, the entities that are mediating through these platforms have to comply with a number of new obligations, filing returns, informing of the transactions, of the tax ID of the users, of the vendors especially, and carrying out those withholdings that apply to the parties involved in the operation. This is not a tax that goes to the platform itself, but it's an obligation of the platform. If you want to move to the I think there's one more. These are, I want to show the difference. So in this case, if you have a foreign entity with no Mexico presence, this is important. That is being mediating, between two parties, and we use here the example of transportation or lodging, right? Parties in Mexico using a foreign based platform, then all these obligations that I mentioned kicked in. If we are, for instance, just the last one, if we are in the software as a service structure, if you want to go to the last one, please. For instance, this does not apply, and I thought this was relevant for the companies that are present here today. These changes that I just mentioned do not apply to software as a service in general, because there's no need for the foreign or non-resident to come and register to Mexico or comply with any of the withholding obligations that I just said. But again, it's always elemental to analyze the case-by-case type of operations that you're planning to conduct to determine whether you have tax exposure or not in our country. And I think that covers everything I had for tonight. Well, today, sorry. I don't know if, and again, apologies for the lack of skills in using the technology. This is the first time it happens in a year for me.
Thank you very much, Mariano. I don't know if there's any questions.
Hi, Angela. Hi, Mariano. I have a question. My name is Jaime Sinisto. We recently did a joint venture with a Singaporean company, and as part of our capital structure, we're acquiring, or they're putting their license as part of the capital structure. So I don't know. It's a question that probably we can later take offline. But I wanted to ask if PwC help value this kind of licenses into Mexico, so we can actually use it as part of the company capital structure.
Yes, we do. We have a team that can help with that. I didn't introduce myself at the beginning as I should. Sorry about that, but I was put off with the with the issues with technology. I lead the inbound group for PwC in Mexico. So all the investments that come to Mexico, we have a specific group that help with it, and also lead the tech industry group here. So yes, we do have a group that can help with that. And there's my, well, there was my contact info. So okay. Please feel free to reach out.
Yeah, I will reach you later. Thank you very much.
Happy to.
Thank you. Is there any other question? Well, I think we don't have more questions. I think the tax questions will come once we get some deals in Mexico. So we will share the slides that you have sent us, and where your contacts are in there. And with this, we will be ending this webinar and the series of webinar supporting Singapore tech companies to come into Latin America. Do reach to us if you have any questions. And thank you very much for SGTech, ESG, and all of them that have been supporting this series of webinars. And in this case, to our Latin American business ambassador, Mario Buenrostro, sitting in Mexico. And have a good evening for those of you in Mexico, and a good rest of days for us here in Singapore. Thank you. Bye.